Maniac Tuesday and Wednesdays continue today. That's right, Kiyaya. Ashlee's back for the next few chapters of Jerry Spinelli's Newberry Award-winning book, Maniac McGee. Sit back, relax, let's get cozy. It's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. Are you a singer, an actor, an artist, a crocheter, a knitter, a cross-stitcher, a potter? Are you a crafter? Coming soon to Rude Rangers TV is Crafty Conversations with... My outspoken friend Kiyaya and I are going to be launching our new show on Rude Rangers TV this spring. Email us at craftyconversations@STITCHINGwolfdesigns.com if you're interested in sharing your story with us. Follow us on our social media accounts. Or check our website out, www.STITCHINGwolfdesigns.com, or give us a call, 516-274-0350. The possibilities are endless. Stories are such an important part of our lives. Join my friend Kiyaya and I for Get Cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel, where we share some of the greatest picture books and chapters from children's and young adult literature to inspire you to keep embedding literacy into your days. I'm Daniel, and Kiyaya and I are here to share this all with you.
Maniac McGee, Chapter 21. Buggles, cap, guns, sirens, firecrackers, war whoops. Cobble's Corner was a madhouse. Traffic had to beep and inch through the mob. Kids cried for autographs. Scraps of paper fluttered down in a shower of homemade confetti. A beaming Mr. Cobble handed up a certificate to Maniac for a year's worth of large pizzas. Maniac accepted it and said his thanks. The undone knot lay in a coiled heap at Maniac's feet. Mr. Cobble grabbed it. Already, people were guessing how long it was. The yelling went on and on, the way yelling does, if only to hear itself. But one person wasn't yelling. Amanda Beale. She was holding one of the homemade confetti scraps, gaping at it. Then she was scrambling across the sidewalk, the street, shoving people's legs. It turned out to be 4.5 blocks long. Someone tied it to a stop sign and started walking, and that's how far he got before he gave out. Aside, grabbing more scraps, crying out, "Oh no! Oh no!" And then she was running. Maniac saw. He leaped from the table. He picked up a scrap. There was a printing on it about Africa. He picked up another. This one mentions ants. Another, Aristotle. The Encyclopedia A. He followed the scrap paper trail, Hector and down Sycamore, all the way to the Beagle's front steps. The only thing left of the book was the blue and red cover. It looked something like an empty loose-leaf binder. Amanda was hunched over, rocking and squeezing it to her chest. "It was my fault," she sobbed. "I got careless. I left it in the living room. Anybody could look through the window. And she clenched her eyes so tightly, it was a wonder the tears got out. More than anything, Maniac wanted to hug Amanda and tell her it was okay. He wanted to go inside, be with his family, in his house, his room, behind his window. But that wasn't the right thing. The right thing was to make sure the beagles didn't get hurt anymore. He couldn't keep letting them pay for such a price. He turned and headed back up Sycamore. Maybe the man with the can of worms voice was right. Back to your own kind. Back to your own kind. He never got farther west than the far curb of Hector Street, because McNabb and Cobras was there to meet him. Grinning, leering, hissing, "Yo, baby, we hear you got a little pizza prize there. Come on. Back, we missed you. We've been waiting for you." So he turned and started walking north on Hector, right down the middle of the street, right down the invisible chalk line that divided East End from West End. Cars beeped at him. Drivers hollered. But he never flinched. The Cobras kept right along him on the side of the street. So did a bunch of East Enders on their side. One of them was Mars Bars. Both sides were calling him over. And then they were calling at each other, then yelling, then cursing. But nobody stepped off a curb. Everybody kept moving north. An ugly, snarling, black and white escort for the kid in the middle. And that's how it went. Between the curbs, smack down the center, Maniac McGee walked, not ran, right out on the curb. Maniac McGee, Chapter 22. If you were the baby buffalo at the Elmwood Park Zoo, maybe it would have gone something like this. You wake up, you have breakfast, compliments of mother's milk. You mosey on over to the lean-to. Surprise! A strange new animal in there. Bigger than you, but a lot smaller than Mom. Hair, but only on the top of its head. Sitting in the straw, munching on a carrot like Mom does. Every morning, same thing. You get to accept it. Some mornings you forget Mom's milk and head right over to the lean-to. The creature offers you a carrot, but all you know how to deal with is Mom's milk. You nuzzle the new, funny-smelling, hairy-headed animal. It nuzzles you back. Mom doesn't seem to mind. After the nuzzling, the stranger climbs over the fence and goes away, not to return until that night. Only one morning the stranger falls from the fence and lies on the ground on the other side. It doesn't move. You try to poke your nose through the chain links, but you can't reach. You can only watch. Only watch. The old man was bumping through the zoo in the park pickup when he spotted the body clumped outside the buffalo pen. He wheeled over, got out. A kid. At first, he could only stare at the body. Then, at the baby bison, whose large brown eye seemed to be watching them both. The mother came lumbering over, nodding as to confirm. A kid. The kid looked terrified. His clothes were scraps. Wherever his body showed through, it was bony and dirty and scratched. The two bison, staring, seemed to say, "Well, do something." The old man gathered his own bones and muscles as best as he could and managed to hoist the kid and get him into the pickup. He laid him on the seat, bent his legs so he could close the door. He knew he should take the kid straight to the hospital or a doctor, someplace official, someplace right. But the pickup just sort of steered itself back to the band shell. And there he was, lugging the kid into baseball equipment room. The season was over by now, but the army green burlap bag still stood ready for the next ump to call, play ball. He yanked out a couple of chest protectors and laid the kid down, careful to watch his head. At least he was breathing. Though it was cold, it seemed as if the kid ought to be covered. So the old man took his winter work jacket off the hook and laid that over him. Then he waited and watched. With trembling, dusty fingers, he touched the kid's limp, scrawny hand. He had never really touched a kid's hand before. "Hey!" The kid's voice was barely a squeak, but it threw him back. He dropped the hand. "Where am I?" The old man cleared his throat. "The band shell." The band shell? In the back equipment room. The kid's eyes squinted and blinked. "And you? What about me? Who are you?" "Grayson." "Grayson? Do I know you?" He got up. "Guess you do now." He went to his hot plate, heated up some water, and made the kid some chicken noodles and a cup of soup. He gave it to the kid, who was sitting up now. "You want a spoon?" He looked as though he could hardly lift the cup. He held it in both hands and gulped it. "Huh?" he said. "Never mind. You still hungry?" The kid flopped back down. A little. "Wait here," said Grayson, and left. 10 minutes later, he was back with a Zepp and a large. It took the kid less time to polish off than it had taken Grayson to get it. He told the kid not to eat so fast, he'd get sick. The kid nodded. Grayson said, "Where'd you get them scratches?" "Oh, some pigger bush." "What were you doing there?" "Hiding." "Hiding who from?" "Some kids." "Where?" The kid pointed. "Somewhere out there, some other town." He crossed his legs in Indian style on the chest protector. "Can I ask you a favor?" "Shoot." "Can we go somewhere and get butterscotch crimpets?" Grayson squawked. "Crimpets? You're still hungry?" "For them I am." Grayson threw the greasy Zepp wrapper into the wastebasket. I don't know. Maybe you ought to do something for me first." "Like what?" "Like tell me your name." "It's Jeffrey McGee." "And where do you live?" "Well, I did live on Sycamore Street, 728. "Did?" "I guess I don't anymore." The old man stared. "You said Sycamore?" "Yep." "Ain't that East End?" "Yep." With his fingernail, he scraped a patch of dirt off the kid's forearm and stared at it. "What are you doing?" the kid asked. "Seeing if he was white under there." Neither spoke for a while. At last, the kid said, "Anything else you want to ask me?" The old man shrugged. "Guess not." "Ah, come on, don't stop asking." "I'm asked out." "How about the zoo, huh? Don't you want to know what I was doing at the zoo, at the buffalo pen?" The old man sighed. "Okay, what?" "I was living there, with the buffaloes." "With the buffaloes?" "Yep, with the buffaloes." "You like buffaloes?" "It was dark when I got there. I thought it was a deer pen. They switched the deer pen and the buffaloes around last month." "Okay with me. I got along better with the buffaloes anyway." "Well, I'll tell you one thing," the old man sniffed. "You sure do smell like one." The kid laughed. They both laughed. When they finally calmed down, the kid said, "Any chance of those crimpets now?" Grayson reached for the pickup keys. "Let's go." Maniac McGee, Chapter 23. Grayson got the crimpets all right. He bought a whole box of 3-packs. With 10 packs to a box, that was 30 butterscotch crimpets. Maniac thought he must have climbed out of that buffalo pen right into heaven. Then Grayson took Maniac home. Home for the old man was 2 Mills YMCA. He lived in a room on the 3rd floor. But he didn't take Maniac up there. He took him downstairs to the locker room. He got him a towel and a cake of soap, told him to take off his rags, and pointed the way to the showers. Maniac stayed in the shower for an hour. He hadn't done this since his last bath with the little ones. He smiled, and the thought of them shrieking and splashing. The shower needles stung his scratches, but it was a good welcome back to town stinging. When Maniac finally forced himself from the shower, he found the old man waiting with clothes. Grayson's clothes. I called the U.S. Army in to haul the buffalo rags away, he said. They come with gas masks on, and they used tongs to pick them up and put them in a steel box and took the box away to bury it at the bottom of the first mine shaft they come to. Maniac couldn't stop laughing. Neither could Grayson, especially when he got a load of the kid drowning in his clothes. An hour later, after a minor shopping spree, Maniac had his clothes on. For the rest of the afternoon, they cruised around town, talking and eating crimpets. So, said the old man, now what are you going to do? Maniac thought it over. How about a job? I could work for the park like you. Grayson didn't like that answer. He said, where do you think you're going to stay? Maniac's answer was prompt. The baseball room, it's perfect. A tiny idea was beginning to worm its way into Grayson's head. He could barely feel it as it brushed by the claptrap in his brain. He ignored it. He said, what about school? Maniac was silent. Some butterscotch icing had stayed behind on the wrapper. He scooped it up and mopped it from his finger, wishing it were Mrs. Beagle's and not his own. Grayson, who was not comfortable asking questions, was even less comfortable waiting for answers. I said, what about school? Maniac turned to him. What about it? You gotta go. You're a kid, ain't you? I'm not going. But you gotta. Don't you? They'll make you. Not if they don't find me. The old man just looked at him for a while with a mixture of puzzlement and recognition, as though the fish he had just landed might be the same one thrown away long before. Why? He asked. Maniac felt why more than he knew why. It had to do with homes and families and schools, and how a school seems to be sort of like a big home, but only a day home, because then it empties out, and you can't stay there at night because it's not really a home, and you can never use it as your address because an address is where you stay at night, where you walk to right in front of the door without knocking, where everybody talks to each other and uses the same toaster. So all the other kids would be heading for their homes and their night homes, each of them, hundreds flocking from school like birds from a tree, scattering across town, each breaking off to his or own place, each knowing exactly where to land. School? Home? No. He was not going to have one without the other. If you try to make me, he said, I'll just start running. Grayson said nothing. What the kid said actually made him feel good, though he had no idea why. And the brushing little worm of a notion was beginning to tickle him now. He kept on driving. Maniac McGee, Chapter 24. They got back to the bandshell just as they finished the last of the crimpets. Grayson looked at his watch. Guess it's time to quit the job I never did today. Time for dinner, too. Grayson was joking, but Maniac was serious when he piped, Great, where to? Dumbfounded, the old man drove back out of the park to the nearest diner, where he sat with a cup of coffee while the boy wolfed down meatloaf and gravy, mashed potatoes, zucchini, salad, and coconut custard pie. Grayson had a way of jumping into a subject without warning. It was during Maniac's dessert that he abruptly said, "Them black people, they eat mashed potatoes too?" Maniac thought he was kidding, then realized he wasn't. Sure, Mrs. Beale used to have mashed potatoes a lot. Mashed in every other way. Mrs. who? Mrs. Mrs. Beagle. Do you know the Beals? Of 720 Sycamore Street? The old man shook his head. Well, they were my family. I had a mother and a father and a little brother and sister and a sister my age and a dog, my own room too. Grayson stared out to the diner as if digesting this information. How about meatloaf? Huh? They eat that too? Sure, meatloaf too. And peas and corn, you name it. Cake? Maniac beamed. Oh man, you kidding? Mrs. Beale makes the best cakes in the world. Grayson's eyes narrowed. Toothbrushes? Do they use them? Maniac fought not to smile. Absolutely. We all had our toothbrushes hanging in the bathroom. I know that, said Grayson, impatient, but is theirs the same as ours? No difference that I could see. You didn't drink out the same glass? Absolutely we did. This information seemed to shock the old man. Maniac laid down his fork. Grayson, they're just regular people like us. I was never in a house of theirs. Well, I'm telling you, it's the same. There's bathtubs and refrigerators and rugs and TVs and beds. Grayson was wagging his head. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? It was after dark when they got back to the baseball equipment room. The worm in Grayson's head had long since ceased to be a tiny tickle. It was now a maddening touch. As with all such itchworms, it would exit by only one route, his mouth. He said, I was thinking, maybe you want to come over to my place. This here floor is pretty hard. He tapped his foot to show how hard. The grizzled gray old park end could never know how much Maniac was tempted, or how deeply the offer touched him. Neither could Maniac explain that such bad luck always seemed to have with his parents had led him to the conclusion that he'd better stick to himself. Oh, it's not so bad here, he said. Look. He lay down on the chest protectors and closed his eyes. Just like a mattress. I can feel myself dozing off already. And then, not wanting to hurt the old man's feeling, he quickly added, Hey, I told you everything about me. How about you? He pulled Grayson's coat over himself. A bedtime story. Grayson snorted. Story? I don't know stories. Sure you do, Maniac probed. About yourself. Not me. Grayson was edging on the floor. I ain't got no story. I ain't nobody. I work at the park. You line baseball fields? Yep, I do that. You live at the Y? You drive the park pickup? You like butterscotch crimpets? Grayson shook his head. Not as much as you. I have to eat them all by yourself. I was just being friendly. And there's another thing about you, Maniac joked. You're a liar. They both laughed. Grayson opened the door. Wait, Maniac called. What did you want to grow up to be when you were a kid? Grayson paused in the doorway. He looked out into the night. A baseball player, he said, turned out the light and closed the door.
Ashlee, thank you so much for the last 2 days. I love how all of you have reached out and continue to take part in this phenomenal project to make sure that our young people still have access to great books and that touch on important themes that are still relevant today in society. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode because it's story time with Daniel and Kiyaya. Stay safe, stay healthy, get lost in the pages of a book. Keep reading. It'll open up the pages of imagination.